Coming up on FYI.
I feel like majority of the reason that people don't go into school is because they feel like they have no one to open up to.
Companies are planning on using a very special type of leather to make luxury handbags. T-Rex leather. But how could that be true? Back then, most of the drivers didn't wear helmets or a seatbelt, just cloth skull caps and goggles, if they wanted to. This is FYI, bringing you the news that matters to you. And first, this week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and we got the info on the government's new plans to help improve our mental health in school.
Mental health challenges are something we all deal with at some point in our lives, even if we don't always talk about it. School, family stuff, or things like bullying or friendship problems can all be the reasons why we can feel stressed, anxious, or sad. New research just out shows links between children's poor mental health and not going to school. For example, children with poor mental health are 7 times more likely to miss 15 days of school. That's a lot of learning, and it can be really tough to catch up. Pupils at a school in London told me what they think needs to be done to help.
I feel like majority of the reason that people don't go into school is because they feel like they have no one to open up to. If they have knowledge that if they go into school, then they'll have someone to talk to. It'll make them think of the positives rather than the negatives.
What sorts of things would you like to see provided for kids for mental health?
The important thing would be mentors in the school and always like a safe space to go to while you're in the school.
Many kids are missing school, often because of mental health issues, that the government are calling it an absence epidemic. But they've just announced a plan that they hope will tackle the issue. And 5 million kids could benefit from it as soon as next year. Government ministers came to the school to tell us all about their plans.
When we came into government, 45% of children got access to mental health support in school. And what we're announcing is you want to make sure that 100% of children can access good quality mental health support at school.
And how do you aim to do that?
Providing one-to-one support for young people. It would be group interventions and opportunities. It'd be support for parents and then targeted resources for young people that need it.
We hear from a lot of kids who have poor mental health. Is there, support that's already out there, and is it enough?
Well, I'd start by saying no, it's not enough. And it's not available soon enough. We are in the process of making sure that every school across the country has got a mental health professional in there.
So there will be in every school somewhere we could go to
yes.
talk to someone if we're feeling stressed.
And that isn't necessarily the case right now. Mm-hmm. And we're here from government to make sure it's available. And we have a lot of work to do on that.
To help improve students' mental health at this school, pupils can go to wellbeing art classes.
I really like it as it's a nice way to wind down after like a long day of school.
It makes me feel good. It's like a place where you could just like let out all your emotions onto just like one piece of artwork.
I think it's a really good way to relieve stress and anxiety. It makes you feel like really happy and like, because you can do whatever you want.
The government is planning to have, more access to this sort of thing and more mental health support. Mm-hmm. Do you think that will help with, attendance and mental health?
I think it will, as people feel like they can go into school and speak to someone. And if they feel like stressed or sad or lonely, they'll know that there's someone to go to or just somewhere to go to and just sit and sort of relax.
Well, we'll be seeing if the government's plans do actually manage to improve our mental health and make sure that less of us are missing school.
We know that many of you have exams coming up, and they can often be a source of stress. So if you are feeling worried or anxious, check out our top tips on our website, first.news/FYI. Now, time for this week's fake news or fact. What do you think about this next story? We've seen reports that a group of companies are planning on using a very special type of leather to make luxury handbags. T-Rex leather. But how could that be true when dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago? Well, some scientists have spoken out to say that they don't believe it can be done. But we got in touch with the company who announced their T-Rex project, and they told us that it is fact. Currently, it's possible to make lab-grown skin using DNA from cows, which is then tanned and turned into leather. They say it's a cruelty-free and sustainable way of making leather that's used in things like bags, shoes, and furniture. But in the future, they want to use cells from fossilized T-Rex bones to grow skin that's eventually turned into dinosaur leather. Well, we're excited to see if they can do it. It's been 75 years since the very first Formula 1 race at the famous Silverstone circuit. A lot has changed in the sport since 1950, and a few F1 facts we found out made us go OMG. Dr. Giuseppe Nino Farina, who was the first ever winner of an F1 race, drove an Alfa Romeo 158, and at the time, the car was already 13 years old. Now, drivers race in brand new cars at the start of every season. Back then, most of the drivers didn't wear helmets or a seatbelt, just cloth skull caps and goggles, if they wanted to. Whereas now, drivers have to wear seatbelts, full-face helmets, and protective clothing. At the first race, the average age of the racers that day was 39, but the average age of the racers today is just 26. The youngest current F1 driver is Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who at just 18 years old only recently passed his driving test. Looking to the future, many are hoping to see more female F1 drivers, as only 5 women have ever officially competed in a Formula 1 Grand Prix in its 75-year history. Now, we have some exciting news. Our special FYI Investigates, Disability in Me documentary has won a BAFTA Television Award.
Disability in Me, FYI Investigates.
I'd just like to dedicate this award really to the 4 young people that we work with on this documentary programme. Without their honesty, their bravery, we could never have made the programme. So Eva, George, Harmony and Isla, this is for you. Thank you.
The special episode was all about what it's like to be a disabled child in the UK.
They laugh at me and they point at me and they stare at me, and I really don't like that.
You can see the full episode on first.news/FYI. But for now, here's George's story.
Morning. Morning, George. How did you sleep?
George lives in Tunbridge Wells with his mum, sister Evie, Maggie, Max, and Mitzi. George was born with a condition called spinal muscular atrophy type 2, which makes his muscles weaker. It's caused by a loss of nerve cells that control muscle movement in the body. But this doesn't stop George getting the most he can out of life. He's a tireless campaigner for SMA awareness and better access to treatment.
I wanted to find out what life has been like for George growing up with a disability, and whether he feels that enough is being done to help support kids like him.
So George, what are some of the everyday challenges you face?
One of the biggest challenges I face is the lack of independence. Doing my teeth, transferring, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and basic needs such as putting my shoes on as well.
One thing that has really improved George's quality of life is his new wheelchair, which helps him to get around far more easily than the one that was provided by the NHS. With this one, he can access hard-to-reach places.
I'm guessing it was pretty expensive, right?
Yes, it costed £24,000.
That is a lot of money.
We had to fundraise for this chair. It's kinda embarrassing, and also it makes me feel pretty angry. It doesn't feel normal to ask people for money, because this is something a wheelchair user needs, which you would think that the government would provide.
But despite having an amazing chair, George still encounters lots of accessibility problems when he's out and about.
What are some of the issues that can come up?
Lifts and stations. Some lifts are out of order. Stores with stairs. But one of the main issues are drop curbs. This is the only way to get into town, but there's no drop car fare, so I can't even go into town.
Another issue that annoys George is the lack of accessible playgrounds where he lives.
When you see other people on these swings, as I am disabled, then I am not allowed to join in. That makes me very angry and upset. One thing that can be changed, do you see that roundabout over there? Mm-hmm. So there are roundabouts that are accessible for wheelchair users. If they could put one in, it would make me really happy. It's just simple things that can make big differences.
Yeah.
George doesn't let his disability define him, but more really needs to be done to make sure that all children can access public spaces and that there's proper funding for the right specialised equipment that people like George need.
That's about it from us, but we'll see you next week for more of the latest top news. Bye! See you next time.